My name is Avery Scott. I'm 31, and until last Friday, I was the architect of Vertex's most valuable security system. Until they handed my bonus to a man who once broke the test server by clicking a phishing ad. 4 years of code, audits, and sleepless nights reduced to a footnote in a corporate memo. Thanks to our female engineers for supporting from behind the scenes. But what they didn't know was that every commit, every line, every timestamp bore my name. Immutable, encrypted, undeniable. They erased me from the story, so I rewrote the ending. Before I tell you how a single folder and a quiet exit unraveled a $48 million empire, drop a comment to let me know where you're watching from. And stay with me, because silence wasn't surrender. It was set up. They didn't demote me. They deleted me. And then handed my bonus to the guy who couldn't code a lock screen. The light above the conference table flickered once, then steadied. I slid into the leather-backed chair closest to the door. Not by accident. Brent Lawson's review meetings had a way of turning into one-way eulogies. Leah sat diagonally across from me, fingers tapping lightly on her aluminum water bottle. She didn't smile. Brent entered with the confidence of a man who'd never written a single line of code in his life. Polished shoes, cufflinks that glinted under the fluorescent lights, and that same sales exec voice wrapped in concern. "Thank you all for making time this morning," he began, placing his phone face down on the table. "We're here to evaluate the Aegis rollout and recognize outstanding contributions." I blinked once. Evaluate? We'd locked the release last Thursday. Security protocols, testing, even last-minute patches. Done. I knew because I had written most of it. Chase Delaney cleared his throat and stood. He smoothed his tie, looking more surprised than anyone else in the room. "I'll be walking us through the presentation," he said, voice shaking slightly. Something thudded in my chest. I turned to Brent. "You asked me to prepare the retrospective," I said. Calm, measured, already too late. Brent offered a look of rehearsed regret. "Avery, we've decided to elevate Chase's visibility across verticals. You've done great foundational work, but it's time to let new leadership shine." I looked at Leah. Her gaze didn't flinch. Sandra Myers from HR sat poised like a mannequin, eyes blank but alert. "We've also finalized bonus allocations," she said. "Effective this cycle, Chase will receive a $9,400 performance bonus for his contributions to Aegis." I didn't speak. Not yet. I clicked open the laptop in front of me. My name was still there on every changelog, every test branch, every vulnerability patched and archived. Then, ping. The company-wide email landed. "Huge thanks to our brilliant female engineers for supporting Aegis behind the scenes. You make this company stronger. Graham Whitaker, CEO behind the scenes." I wasn't even a ghost in this narrative. I was erased. Every build, every late-night patch, rewritten with a fresher face and a shinier tie. Leah looked up. Just once. Her expression was quiet, almost serene, but behind it I saw something sharp. A reckoning. I stood. No speech, no raised voice. Just opened one folder on my screen. Aegis, authorship logs encrypted. Time-stamped. Immutable. Nobody moved. I closed the lid, lifted my bag, and walked to the door. Brent's voice trailed after me. As I walked out, Brent called after me. "Stay professional, Avery." I didn't turn. I just smiled, because professionalism was about to bury him. They stole my voice. So I built something louder, a paper trail they couldn't erase. The door to my apartment shut with a finality that didn't match its softness. I didn't bother turning on the lights. The blue-gray dusk outside had already given way to night, and the only illumination came from the green LEDs pulsing quietly on my workstation. 3 monitors glowed in the dark, an eerie altar to memory and metadata. I poured myself a glass of water. My hands weren't shaking. They hadn't shaken all day. Something deeper than anger had taken over? Something colder. I opened the virtual machine. Layered in encrypted partitions, it had no ties to any of Vertex's systems. No one knew it existed except me. Folder by folder, I pulled up the logs. Every push to Git, every build timestamp, every code commit with my digital signature. Then came the email, a forwarded chain I'd archived months ago and forgotten. From Graham Whitaker to Lockshield Enterprises. Subject, Aegis Phase 2. Lead. Excited to introduce Chase Delaney as project lead. He's bringing incredible momentum to the next phase. Dated 6 weeks before I even finalized the encryption module. I sat back. Not surprised. Just noted. The truth wasn't in what they said. It was in what they assumed no one would check. A message blinked on my phone. Leah Grant. If you're going to do anything, I'm here. No preamble, no platitudes. Just that. It meant more than a dozen apologies. I pulled up an old contact in my encrypted email draft folder. 2. Sophia Lin, tech columnist, data privacy watchdog, once quoted me in a piece about invisible labor in engineering teams. Subject, hypothetical, whistleblower file, Aegis. The body remained blank. I typed, then erased, typed again. Instead, I opened another document, secfraudtemplate.pdf. Every time Brent or Graham redirected a contract or rewrote a technical memo under Chase's name, every time they revised a build spec, I had saved it, not in anger, in awareness. Leah messaged again. I've talked to a few people who got ripped off like you. Want a list? I replied, yes. And pseudonyms if you have them. In the quiet hum of machines, I connected an air-gapped USB, coated in epoxy, fingerprint-locked, and kept in a titanium sleeve. Folder name, Aegis Backdoor. No jokes, no dramatics, just everything they'd hoped would be forgotten. Midnight came and went. One more folder, one more layer, the final step, the patent registry. I accessed the secured internal filing system through the back door I'd quietly maintained for years. Brent once called it a paranoid legacy feature. I called it insurance. There it was. Patent filing, Aegis Identity Encryption Protocol v1.0 filed June 3, 2023. Inventors, Brent Lawson, Graham Whitaker. No mention of me. Not even a line in the technical attribution. I wasn't just sidelined. I was erased. And I had every log to prove it. At 9 a.m., I was a silent engineer. By noon, I was the reason the firewall cracked. And the empire burned. 9 a.m., Cafe Solaris, Evanston. I ordered a black coffee and chose the farthest booth, one with the power outlet that always sparked when you plugged in too fast. My laptop booted in seconds. The air smelled of toasted bagels and someone's overly ambitious perfume. The resignation email was already written. Gentle, clean, impersonal. Subject, transition notice. To Sandra Myers, HR, Brent Lawson, Graham Whitaker. CC, myself. Dear Sandra, after considerable thought, I've decided to step away from my role at Vertex Systems. I'm grateful for the opportunities and wish the team continued success. I'll ensure a smooth offboarding process. Best, Avery Scott. No emotion, no trace of accusation, just like they preferred it. Professional, tidy. I clicked send, 9:15 a.m. Next came the 27 data packets, each zipped, time-stamped, and digitally signed. Recipients: Securities and Exchange Commission, Tech Ethics Alliance, 3 national outlets, including Reuters, 2 clients known for strict compliance policies, 1 anonymous journalist network, Sophia Lin. The subject line was uniform. Request for urgent review. Aegis authorship logs and regulatory concerns. Inside, build records, internal chats, version histories, IP misattributions, signed code blocks, and patent filings with redacted authorship. No opinions, just facts. The kind of facts you don't need to explain. I closed my laptop and stirred the coffee I hadn't touched. 10:30 a.m. inbox pinged. Reuters Legal Affairs. Can you confirm the documents you sent are accurate and verifiable? I replied with a yes and attached the checksum verification hashes. No more, no less. 11 a.m. The phone rang. 3 times. Graham Whittaker. Graham Whittaker. Graham Whittaker. I let them ring out. No voicemail. Just the silence that always follows panic. 11:18 a.m. New email, Brent Lawson. Subject, URGENT. Return of IP materials. Avery, this is a breach. Please return the USB device and any sensitive documents. We can discuss next steps privately. So now it mattered. Now the obsolete toy, as he once called it, had value. 11:30 a.m. Leah's text came through. The exchange just froze Vertex stock. They're trying to delete shared drives, but the media already scraped them. Brent is in a closed-door meeting. Sandra looks like she saw a ghost. I sipped my now cold coffee. There were no smiles, just clarity. 11:45 a.m. I accessed my admin panel one last time. Account, ascot.vx. Status, terminate. The system prompted me, do you want to disable all associated ports? Number 1 left one port open, obscured, firewalled, hidden, so the investigators could access what they needed when the subpoenas dropped. 12 p.m. Reuters published. Whistleblower triggers collapse of $48 million tech giant over ethics breach. The article hit LinkedIn and Twitter before my screen even refreshed. Graham's face sat beside a headline he'd never wanted. And Chase was labeled as unreachable for comment. A major banking client released a statement within minutes. Pending full investigation, we are suspending cooperation with Vertex Systems. And just like that, silence became the loudest sound in their server room. They built their fortress with secrets. I simply left the doors unlocked. The waiting room smelled faintly of citrus and fresh toner. I sat across from a wall of law degrees framed in charcoal black, each one perfectly aligned like lines of code. The nameplate on the door read, Kelsey Park, J.D. She walked in, eyes bright, no pretense. You picked a hell of a week to call me, she said, half laughing. I wanted someone smart, and not afraid of Brent Lawson. That narrows it down. We stepped into her glass-walled office. She gestured toward the chair and powered up her MacBook. I slid the encrypted USB across the desk. You really don't believe in the cloud, do you? She smirked. Not when I've seen what people can do with it. As she opened the folders, her face shifted from curiosity to disbelief. Project logs, patent filings, version histories, emails that predated the official timelines by weeks. Internal memos signed by Brent, claiming oversight on modules I'd architected line by line. Kelsey whistled. This is damning. That's why I need to know where I stand, NDA-wise. She clicked through the HR folder I'd archived from my onboarding, then through a scanned copy of the NDA I'd signed when I joined Vertex. Here's the original, she said, pointing. March 2020, 3-year scope. No mention of the Aegis system specifically. I nodded. Sandra mentioned a renewal last year, but I never signed. Kelsey's eyes narrowed. You sure? I reviewed the draft. It had some quiet clauses. Retroactive IP, indefinite silence. I never sent it back. A slow grin spread across her face. Then they're bluffing. 10:43 a.m., email from Sandra Myers. Subject, legal consequences. Pending. Ms. Scott, due to recent activity involving proprietary documents, you may be in breach of your non-disclosure agreement. We advise you to cease further distribution and prepare for formal review. I passed the phone to Kelsey. She read it once, then snorted. Wow, classic shake the tree move. They think I'm scared. Number, they hope you're uninformed. She tapped out a response and handed me the laptop. I suggest you review which signatures are missing before making threats. I typed, then added, Regards, A. Scott. 11:18 a.m., Leah Grant. Text, FYI, Brent's trying to wipe system history, but the backup server in Phoenix still pings every 10 minutes. Looks like he forgot about it. I smiled. He built his empire on selective memory. I built mine on exact copies. Kelsey leaned back. You didn't breach anything. If anything, you saved them from federal investigation. We'll draft a liability disclaimer and IP ownership clarification, just in case. Think they'll try to sue? If they do, I'll send them a copy of their own handbook with the clause they overlooked highlighted. We talked logistics, legal buffers, whistleblower protections. I signed nothing that day, not because I was avoiding risk, but because I wanted my next move to come on my terms. I stepped outside. The sky was gray, the kind that held its breath before a downpour. No NDA, no silence. And I wasn't done yet. While they chased the smoke, I was building fireproof walls. The elevator doors creaked open onto the 5th floor of a red brick building in Fulton Market. Floor-to-ceiling windows welcomed in the bleached winter sun. The space still smelled like new paint and ambition. I slid the our key card, into the scanner. The lock clicked. Leah was already inside, curled up in a chair with a laptop and a latte the size of a soup bowl. "You beat Marcus," she said, smiling. "I beat me," I replied. I haven't woken up this early since the SEC dropped subpoenas. The desks were mismatched. The chairs were all secondhand. But in one corner, a whiteboard gleamed with scrawled ideas, modular access tokens, 2-factor handshakes, and my personal favorite, no more black boxes. Leah tapped her screen. "Want to see something?" It was the prototype. Clean, efficient UX. No layers of marketing fluff. No flashy buttons, just clarity. "Anyone can use this," she said. "That's the point." "I know," I whispered. "It's beautiful." Marcus arrived just after 9, carrying a box of donuts and a grin that said more than words. Brought carbs, and good news. He dropped into a chair. "Got a message this morning from Harper Bank. Said they're looking to work with a firm that actually respects client-side encryption." I blinked. "Harper? They dropped Vertex last month." Marcus nodded. "They said they heard you were back." We pulled up a pitch deck. Lean, transparent, painfully honest. No promises we couldn't keep. No jargon to mask what we didn't know. Just a belief that security could be both strong and understandable. We named it Virion, after a bird Leah liked. Small, sharp-eyed, resilient. Kelsey helped finalize the incorporation documents. "Cleanest founding charter I've seen all year," she said, scanning the paperwork. "And that ethics clause? Bold." Leah shot me a look. "Told you she'd love it." By the end of the 3rd week, we had 6 inquiries. Not all were big names, but every single one had been burned by a firm like Vertex. Arrogant, opaque, too big to listen. When Harper Bank confirmed the meeting, I almost didn't breathe. The boardroom was quieter than I expected. A long oak table, a dozen eyes. And in the center, my laptop connected to the display. I walked them through the system. Zero trust authentication, transparent audit logs, no backdoors, period. When I finished, no one clapped. No one smiled. Then the director leaned forward and said, "Can we sign today?" I nodded once. Yes. Outside, snow had begun to fall. Light, steady, quiet. Leah stood beside me on the curb. "They built trust like a stock," she murmured. "We're building it like a structure." I thought of Chase, of Brent, of the silence they once rewarded and the noise they feared. I thought of the lies polished into press releases and the applause that never reached the ones who actually built the foundation. They burned trust. We rebuilt it from ash. They issued a press release. I issued nothing. The live stream buffered once, then steadied. I watched from my kitchen table, snow piling against the window in soft, uneven layers. The Conrad Hotel's ballroom was dressed in corporate remorse. Navy banners, chrome podiums, and just enough sterile lighting to bleach out any trace of real accountability. Graham Whitaker stood center stage, flanked by marketing managers in gray suits and distant smiles. His voice was polished, but even through the screen, I could hear the tightness. "At Vertex, we take integrity seriously," he began. "While recent events have presented challenges, we believe in moving forward. Mistakes were made by a select few. but our mission remains unchanged. No names, no ownership, just vapor. Behind him, Sandra stepped to the microphone. We'd like to extend our deepest thanks to our employees who stood by our values during difficult times. I nearly laughed. I remembered the email she'd sent with the subject line, "Legal consequences pending." That too had vanished into silence. The camera panned across the press gallery. A hand rose. Microphone passed. A woman in a forest green blazer stood. "Are you referring," she asked, "to the whistleblower who exposed the falsified patent filings and forged attribution logs?" Graham blinked. A moment too long. "This is not the forum to rehash specific personnel matters," he said. "We're focused on innovation, not the past." The moderator leaned in, whispered something. And then, just like that, the press conference ended. No questions, no follow-up. The stream cut to a holding screen. "Thank you for attending." My phone buzzed. Leah. Text. "They still think it's about them." I smiled. I opened my browser, typed Vertex Systems into the search bar. The top 5 results weren't about the conference. They were headlines about Virion, our funding round, our first 3 clients, our partnership with the Chicago Digital Ethics Alliance. Below those, an op-ed, "The Ethics Reboot, How One Engineer's Silence Changed Everything." And then the email from partnerships@fortune100.co. Subject, exploring collaboration opportunities. "We've followed your journey with interest. Would love to discuss a potential partnership with Virion." I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I highlighted the message. Press delete. The laptop clicked shut with a soft finality. No announcement. No rebuttal. No gloating article. I didn't need to explain how they fell or who made it possible. I just watched the snowfall and let the facts speak louder than anything I could have said. No press. No noise. Just proof that I never needed them to begin with. The press conference ended with excuses, but the truth had already moved on. Quietly, deliberately, without fanfare. In a world where betrayal often hides behind boardroom smiles, it takes more than talent to survive. It takes clarity, proof, and the will to walk away instead of breaking down. Like the final chord of a long-forgotten melody, justice may arrive late. But when it lands, it leaves no room for doubt. Sometimes the loudest form of power is choosing not to speak at all.